In the most basic sense, encryption is taking a message and scrambling it to something which doesn't make sense to anyone who doesn't know that you've encrypted it. Or they may think you've encrypted it, but they can't really tell what the original message was. So as an example, take the message "I am bored" here, and then you apply an encryption algorithm. Common ones include AES, and any encryption algorithm needs a password or a secret key. So AES plus the secret key. And then you get this encrypted text, which no one else knows what it means. So what exactly is the scrambling process? Why is it useful? To understand that, let's think of a simple example of a classroom. So there's two kids, Alice and Bob, and there's a teacher. Alice wants to send a note to Bob which says, "I love you." So she writes it on a piece of paper and sends it across to Bob. Now, however, the teacher sees that she's passing a note, and the teacher takes the note instead. Now, because it's a simple note saying "I love you," the teacher can read the note, and she knows what the message contains. However, if Alice and Bob want to keep it a secret, they could use encryption. Now, of course, you can't really apply complex encryption algorithms in your head, but for the sake of explanation, let's assume Alice and Bob are geniuses. So, Alice takes her initial message, "I love you," applies encryption, say AES again with the password. So AES applied, and the password is pass1234. So after applying AES with 1234, she gets this text over here, which looks like garbage. Now she writes this on a piece of paper and passes it over to Bob. If the teacher sees it, she doesn't know what it means. She can't understand it because she doesn't have the key to decrypt it. So anyway, let's assume she doesn't throw it out and Bob receives this message. Bob can now again apply the AES decryption algorithm, and the password is the same password for encrypting and decrypting, and then he gets the original message. So this way, encryption is useful when you're communicating and people in the middle can see what you're sending to hide what you're really sending. So people in the middle can still see that, hey, you're sending something, and they can see that encrypted text, but it'll look like garbage unless they have the key, which only you and the person who's receiving it should have. A real-life example of this over the internet is whenever you log into a secure website. So, for example, on Facebook, you type in your email and your password here and your password, right? And if you see most browsers in a secure website, you have this lock over here, and it says connection is secure, and that's what HTTPS is. It provides web security and encryption automatically. So when you type in your username and password, it gets encrypted to something that looks like garbage on your computer itself. So this process happens on your computer, and then it gets sent out over the internet. So this encrypted text gets sent out over the internet to Facebook, and Facebook has the same key that you use to encrypt it. And then Facebook servers can decrypt this garbage, get what you wrote here, and check if it matches, and if it does, they log you in. So any person in the middle, say some hacker here, hacker in the middle, can't see anything. They're like, what's going on? They can see garbage. They can see that, hey, you're sending something, but they cannot get, for example, your email and password from that. So encryption is useful, and it happens almost automatically in probably your daily life. And this is just a very brief overview of what it is to cover other topics in the future. Some of those topics include how do two parties get the secret key? So in this case, when you're encrypting something and the Facebook decrypts it, both of you should have the same key. There's another method called public key cryptography, which is used for this, which I'll explain again in another video. But how this communication happens, because remember, if you say, hey, Facebook, our password should be pass1234, right? And if you send this over the internet, the hacker can see, hey, this is their password, and then just decrypt anything anyway. But so one solution would be to encrypt this password again. But then how do you encrypt that with another key without the hacker knowing what the key is? So that's something I'm going to cover again. And how exactly is HTTPS more secure? What can an attacker see if it's only HTTP? Why is it bad? So a technical overview of exactly what happens. Going to look into some packets and stuff, as well as what end-to-end encryption is. So you might have heard this phrase before, especially when you're in the context of messaging apps where you're communicating with different people about end-to-end encryption. So no intermediary knows what it is, even governments, why it's important. And kind of like a slightly off topic is how certain websites are blocked, how HTTPS websites are blocked, given that they're quote unquote encrypted, and possible solutions to circumvent this kind of blocking. I've already covered a very basic video on DNS blocking, which is a very naive blocking method, which probably it's easy to bypass as well. But now most internet companies and governments do even block HTTPS websites in another manner, which is what I'm going to cover as well. So hopefully this gives you a very, very brief overview of what encryption is, hiding the message, so other people don't know, unless, of course, they have that encryption key, and then they can decrypt the garbage to get the real message.